Well, thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. Our guests will join us in a bit, but my in-house guest is here. Yesterday, when I said I was going to grill her like tilapia, she said she would grill me. Look who's getting grilled now.
Anyway. My in-house guest this morning, Benjamin Akabu.
No problem, no problem.
How's the week been for you so far?
It's been an interesting week. There's been a lot of back and forth. I guess my highlight from yesterday to today would be the minority calling on its erstwhile members of the administration that don't cooperate with loot, don't engage them. It's an illegal group. But from where I sit, right, they are not conducting investigations. They don't have prosecutorial powers. They are not a court, and they are not the OSP. They are not an ombudsman. All they are doing is collecting information. And you see, I always say this, while the rule of law must apply and the law must be followed to the letter, dot the I's, cross your T's, the point also remains that if you've done no wrong, you know, sometimes if you've done no wrong, you want to invite me, no problem. Oh, are you asking how I did this? Well, it is through this mechanism. Check your records, this and that. I have done nothing wrong. If you've done nothing wrong, why the...
I can't wait to hear the argument from the side of the NPP, really, because we'll get into that story later in our big story segment. And what really is fueling this, vehement opposition to oral? They are recovering all loot. They are not even actively doing anything. They're just saying, hey, if you've seen something, tell us. We will transfer the information to the appropriate authorities. But somehow that is something that we have to argue about. But Ben, my highlight really was yesterday.
But just a quick top up. I have said that if oral doesn't work, then we may have to go nasal. I was just joking with the backroom staff back then. But I feel, whichever way you look at it, when they put their reports together, and they've got hundreds of them, of course, Dr. Dominic Ayine, who likely will become the Minister for Justice and Attorney General, should take up those issues, some of them in the public interest. The OSP is there. He's lamented again recently that it's not been easy for him. But I think we need to create some, I don't know whether the word fear is, but there must be a mechanism so that, like we had the fire service officer, Alex Kinati, so that you don't have recidivism. No, it was rather Tobu who mentioned that. So that people have a certain fear, knowing that if you do X, Y, Z, A, B, C are the likely consequences. But we've created a system where people, not just those in government, can do X, Y, Z with a good chance of avoiding A, B, C. I think it's the mechanisms that people have used, whether it's Japan or wherever. People use those mechanisms so that you know that if you go this way, these are the likely consequences. And once that is in place, I think things will be better in terms of the fight against corruption.
Anyway, Benjamin, this all oral thing actually even ends once we have an Attorney General and Minister for Justice, right? So really,
well, some people have said that.
You may continue.
I don't know the full scope, but I've heard some people say that once we have an Attorney General, that ends. Whichever way, the reports get to a certain source, and whether it's Shraj that has to deal with some of those issues, or the OSP, or the Attorney General, deal with them. That's all.
I want to step away from the politics a bit and share my...
I'm sorry I have to do this. Let me do a final point. But let it not also be a witch hunt.
Yeah.
So that let's tackle issues where there are issues, not where there are no issues and maybe you want to show somebody something small. It should be that they should be seen to be tackling issues that have merit. So it doesn't also create the optic of, oh, they are just going after some people because...
Well, I do want to say, though, that yesterday when I went to Kantamanto, that's the highlight for me, in Agbogboshi.
Your interaction.
There's something humbling about, interacting with these traders in the market. And, their state of mind, it's very interesting how they view all this as normal. It's inspiring, to say the least, that they've lost so much, and yet some of them who lost containers or stores come back to the market with as little as 200, 400 Ghana cedis to go and buy, 3 or 4 dresses, and they'll walk around and sell those, make some money, and go back, And then what's the gentleman telling me that, well, Benny, then you have to start from scratch. And he's so hopeful that in a year or two, he'll be able to make up everything that he lost. So I'm just saying that if you're out there and you have any way of supporting these traders rebuild, please, they need that help. And there's also that controversy about whether the monies that came in, the donations that Alan Cheddar and Baumia gave them, who's actually in charge of the money, whether the money is sitting idle somewhere while they are also, scrambling around to find money to rebuild their stores. So I'm just sort of asking that the general public should also go to the, the aid of these traders at Kantamanto in their quest to rebuild the life that that fire razed to the ground. I think we have to get into a newspaper now. Benjamin, I have the New Republic and the Daily Graphic.
Would you like to start with the Daily Graphic?
Yes, let's get into the Daily Graphic. I was reading an interesting story in the New Republic, but we'll get there, I guess.
Okay.
New security bosses named, yes, a very topical one. Avoiding fuel shortage. WAPCO delays pipeline cleaning. Elect MMDCEs on partisan lines, experts advocate. And resilient leadership, key to business growth. Dr. Sian Ajipom. Converts petroleum margins to taxes. ASEP edges government. And of course, this is the Daily Graphic. Daily Graphic now. Let's get into the story about elect MMDCEs on partisan lines, because 3 political scientists and a legal luminary have stressed the need for the election of metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives on partisan lines. I would wager that this was rather the opposite arguments that we're hearing, whether or not we should actually elect these guys on partisan lines. But it's interesting that these...
But there have been calls for that as well, that, listen, like it or not, it's actually taking that shape, that form. So if you're going to do it, then you might as well do it that way so that it is clear how people are voting. And also that if they vote, then they know how they are doing it, so that, for example, if the people want, for example, now that the NDC is in power, right, if the people want a certain leadership from a certain angle, then they go for it. And then maybe it will impact development at that level in a more constructive, delineated way, rather than having this thing where it is happening, but we are pretending it is not happening. That is the argument of the other side.
We will not be able to eschew the politicization, beg your pardon, I haven't had my coffee yet, of, local governments, Benjamin. That's what we are trying to do away with. Everything comes down to, am I buying the Warsaw? It's my party. If it's not your party, then you don't, enjoy some benefits and so on and so forth. But I do want to get, let's usher in our guests maybe and get their thoughts on this issue, because local government and decentralization, I think, is one thing that this new administration have waxed lyrical about, how they want to change the status quo. Nanaya Sapong is with the Movement for Change, and he joins us in studio. As well as lawyer and member of the NDC communications team, David Kweku Wowi Brown. David and Nanaya Sapon, welcome to the studio. And that's a very bright color you have on.
Thank you, my sister. You're looking good too.
Thank you.
Now also.
Good morning.
Now also. Right. We also have via Zoom Daniel Parker. He is NPP Greater Accra Regional Secretary. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, Daniel. You have to unmute for us. Okay. While we try and reconnect with Daniel over there, let's get the conversation going. Naya Sapong and wow, I forgot your name.
Mr. Wowi Brown.
Mr. Wowi Brown, yeah. We're talking about, this call to elect MMDCEs on partisan lines. What do you make of it?
Right. Good morning to the viewers and let's say, viewers. I must say that promises have been made by several governments as to how they're going to deal with this situation. Electing them on partisan line, I believe that we need a more holistic approach to this. We should open up the discussion and see which is the best way forward. The reason is because we shouldn't forget that whoever is at the municipality, metropolitan assemblies, or the districts is representing the president. And so there must be some leverage where the president should have some control over whoever is representing him. So I would not jump to say, oh, yes, partisan line is okay, non-partisan line is okay. No, we have to look at the situation critically and look at the best way forward, but not forgetting the fact that whoever is there, the president has some level of what? Control over the person to be able to detect. Because if you are an agent of me, then you should be able to do whatever I would want you to do, and I should have some level of what? Control over you. So this would be what I would say to that. I will not jump to say, oh, electing them will not be a problem, because there may be processes where people who the president, maybe 3 people may be nominated, or some number of people may be nominated and are put forth for elections for the people's choice. But I believe that whatever it is, the president or who the people represent should have some level of control over the person. So if we are formulating laws or policies or processes to get these people to such positions, my view is that we should do it in such a way that it will not be like maybe an assembly member who goes there and nobody about. That's what I would say, my take on this. Yes, we can elect them, but the policy should be such that the person who that MMDC is representing has some level of what? Control over such a person, and should be able to what? Tell him, let's do it this way, let's do it that way.
Point made. Now, so I think to a large extent, whether or not we should elect them has really never been a problem. Most people say, let's elect them. We can hold them accountable if we put them in power. But as to whether or not we should be electing them on partisan lines, your thoughts?
Yes, thank you very much, and a good morning to your viewers and Ben also. We from the Movement for Change had a very clear stand on this. We said that there was the need for us to amend Article 243, which actually has to do with the appointment of MMDCEs with approval from the various assemblies, all right? And now this is the way to go in order to be able to deepen the local government system and decentralization, all right? So if you are not, the president has so much power as it stands, the executive. The president has so much power, and if the president will still have power at the very bottom line, then some of us are of the view that it doesn't go down well with governance. All right, so I would want to agree with the political scientists who are suggesting that indeed we should elect these MMDCs. Now, whether on partisan lines or non-partisan lines, we all know that everybody knows somebody who knows somebody and knows where somebody belongs. But the fact that the person has gone to contest an election, the person would be embedded with some level of responsibility, all right? And the person would also be burdened with some level of accountability to the people at the grassroots. So we think that, yes, the elections should be on. But the point is, do the DIO have the political will to enforce or push for this amendment? Because at that level, that is where they also use for their local politics. I mean, you shouldn't be surprised when you would have MMDCs being appointed from constituency executive level or branch levels. It happened in the ex-while MPP administration. It's going to happen in this administration. And if we indeed want to push for local governance and the deepening of it, then we should go for the election.
All right. Daniel, via Zoom, are you on mute now? Unmuted now. Let's hear your thoughts on this issue.
Hello, Daniel. If you're with us, please unmute and let us hear you. Daniel Parker.
So I don't know if you are hearing me now. Is it okay?
We can hear you now. Please go ahead.
Good morning to our viewers, and then good morning to the reps at the stadium. Yes, on the issue, I think it's very confusing. The NPP took a step, and we started the process. And then Ghanaians think it should be the other way. It couldn't work out. For me, I feel it is not the time. we still have to wait because looking at how we think as Ghanaians and then how we do our things, it is very difficult for us electing MMDCs. The reason being that even look at the parliamentarians that we vote for. A member of parliament is voted for a political party which is in power. Do everything possible to sabotage a member of parliament, making sure the member of parliament doesn't get projects into his or a constituency. So electing MMDCs, who, for instance, doesn't belong to a certain political party, when one party is in power, will be very difficult for that MMDCs to get projects within his or a district. So for me, I feel our democracy is still young. We'll have to wait for some time to consider this issue of electing MMDC. I feel it is not a time. It is not a time. Ghanaians should wait patiently until we understand the politics, the democracy that is being studied outside. It will be too early for us to make such a decision by electing MMDCs.
Okay, thank you. I'll just do two more stories.
I have something brief to say on this. I feel there are arguments for and against that I think make sense. For example, to allow more coordinated development and avert sabotage, right? You would want some process that ensures that maybe there is a delineation in line with the administration and power to ensure that what you want to do, you can get done. But then again, like Mr. Wawi Brown mentions, he talks, and I was going to speak to the past. You know, we were going to have a referendum, and then the NPP administration pulled out because at the last minute, the 11th hour, they realized they were likely to lose, and it would be egg on their faces. So they ran away from that. Some say that was an opportunity missed. But when Mr. Wawi Brown talks about there must be some control, I ask, don't we already have an executive that has too much control? Do you get the point? Our executive is already too powerful, overweening, in some cases, overbearing. So it's dicey for me looking at this. Do we elect? Do we not elect? If we elect them, are we going to see a spiral in more jobs for the boys and girls and partyism rather than nationalism? So there are grave concerns in there to be looked at so that we don't end up creating more problems where we don't need problems. But on the other hand, like I mentioned, you already have a system where people going into these positions are political anyway. They already belong to one side of the political spectrum or the other. So it's tricky for me. Honestly, right now, I don't know where exactly. There are pros and cons on both sides.
Whether or not, we all belong to a political line, whether or not. Whether you want to remain neutral, whether you want to disclose it or not disclose it. Everybody's wearing a political color. And at the local level, they know.
That?
But you
maybe
see,
everyone is aligning with an idea that maybe a
whether you are
party,
aligning with it or you are a member of it or you belong to it, it is just
point.
English language.
Make your point.
You understand me? But additionally, it's going to help the checks and balances and reduce corruption. Because, you see, when you know that the party in power or the president who is seated there and his executive members, you are not a part of them and you are not a part of the system, you will be careful in handling the issues at your district. It will reduce wastage, in my view.
So a quick one.
Yeah.
I'm saying that, you know, I based my argument on what is provided for in the Constitution currently. You see, you cannot jump controlling the presidential power and go and say that we want to elect MMDCs on partisan lines. Now the president nominates. Virtually the president appoints one way or the other. Right. So if we are talking of the presidency or the president having too much power, then we should start from the top there, then it would trickle down but to start from the down, it will create a lot of problems. Because even currently, there are problems being created where maybe the president has a vision and there are some MMDCEs who might even be appointed by the president but may not want to do what the president does and affects the governance structure. So if we want, we as a country, that's why I said we need to do a holistic we need to have a holistic view of the issue, deal with it. Okay, if we want MMDCEs to be appointed to bring out development, just as people are calling for the fact that MPs should not be ministers, and that can be done through the constitutional
which I agree with.
Yes, I do agree to. I do agree to some extent. Yes, to some extent.
Yes, because if you look at it critically, a lot of the ministers sometimes some things will, in terms of performance, because they also have to juggle being a member of parliament. And unfortunately, being a member of parliament here is not merely being a legislator.
Exactly.
You must be at funerals.
Exactly.
You must be at weddings.
Exactly.
You must pay this.
Exactly.
You must pay that. So your attention is very divided.
Maybe
if you want to be a minister, I subscribe to that. If you want to be a minister, be a minister. If you're already an MP and you're invited to be a minister, then you choose. If you want to drop, you drop one. Let a legislator be a legislator. In the US, in the UK, you don't have people.
Yes, but maybe.
Let me conclude it. In conclusion, all I want to say
much
is
of that, at least.
for as long as MMDCs fall within the ambit of the executive, there must be presidential control. And if we don't want that, then we should amend the constitution to provide a certain way where that control will not be there so they can have independence. But as long as they fall under the executive, there must be executive control. So we need to amend the constitution to make sure that...
Let me... Go ahead.
To make sure that we deal with it holistically so that there will not be that problem over there. We must check it, look at it critically. Because for as long as they are under the executive, there must be executive control because you are working within the vision of the president. Now, according to our constitution, the president is the government. And if the MMDCs are working in the government, within the executive, it will be difficult to delineate them unless we make constitutional amendment to that effect.
But
that's what I want to say.
Just a quick one.
We have to move on.
As much as
we
they
have
work
to move on.
in the line of the executive or directly as executives, does not mean that the president should be the appointing authority. The president need not be the appointing authority to have control. That is all I want to say.
Oh, no, fine,
and that was part of the point I made earlier.
Yes.
But let's move the conversation forward. As a student of politics, I just wanted to add, because I quickly remember that the UK has a parliamentary system, and so there's a bit of dualization in terms of the rules.
That's what I'm saying.
As a student of politics, I have to quickly remind myself.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe the UK is not the best example to
but the
use,
point is
but the US and others.
You need to reduce the numbers, like finance.
I mean, going forward, this is a conversation that should be open up to everyone.
I want to add something
Daniel.
to what I've already. Yes.
Right.
My sister.
Yeah.
There's something it looks like we are overlooking. The point is that the president only nominates. Our assembly members, who are representatives of the people, are those that elect MMDCs. So I see no difference from the public electing MMDCs and our representatives electing them. There is only a big
difference. There's a big difference.
That is how I see it. Allow me to finish my point.
No, you still have the floor. Land on that point for us.
So for me, I feel we should maintain what we have now. And then, like my brother said, we should look at the issue holistically and make sure there are rules and regulations that will guide before thinking of electing. Other than that, the challenges that we have, even electing them in our elections, the current elections we have, look at what has happened in many constituencies where political parties are taking over to declare and then pressing on people to declare election to a certain political party, which is not helping our democracy. So for me, election now is not the best. We should still hold on till we understand why we should elect MMDCs.
All right.
That is how I think. So we have representatives for assembly members who are electing the president nominates and then they elect. So let's maintain this. And then our young democracy, when it goes, will understand what we will go there to elect MMDCs.
Thank you, Daniel. Let's move the conversation forward. But I just want to say that this is a conversation that should be, opened up to everyone to have a say. Maybe this new administration can review whatever the setbacks of that referendum in 2019 was, and then maybe we can start it from there. But let's get into other stories. Now, on the international front, Mozambique's new president sworn in despite opposition boycotts. I was reading that article this dawn, and I thought it was very interesting. It made me feel lucky that we had a fairly safe, should I say, elections. So Mozambique's new president, Daniel Capo, has been sworn in at a low-key ceremony in the capital, Maputo. that was marred by an opposition boycott following heavily disputed elections. And they are saying about 300 people lost their lives in that election since October. And the opposition boycotted the swearing in, but they've gone ahead to swear in the new president. Let me add two stories. I will not get too much into the details, just the headlines, and then we can move forward. New security bosses named. President John Dramani Mahama has made key appointments to the national security setup, with retired Commissioner of Police Jonathan Kofi Boakye as the new Director of Operations at the presidency, and who could oversee operational effectiveness in security matters. Gentlemen, just these two stories. There are so many other stories in the Daily Graphic. Please pick one for yourself and get into it. Convert petroleum margins to taxes, ASAP edges. But some of these stories, I'm sure, will come in your newspapers as well. So let's reflect on these, and then Nana Yosapon, we can get
yes,
to you.
So with regards to our elections, when Daniel had said that our young democracy, at 32 or 33, I don't think we are that young.
You call a 32-year-old man a young man?
If we're human beings, we should have been married with...
No. We are fairly young.
Some responsibility.
30 is very young, please.
You are still young.
Yeah, you understand. But we are...
32 is still you.
We are a good example to many countries.
Yeah.
And I think that it is always important for us to deepen the processes when it comes to our elections. Unfortunately, we also did lose some lives.
Yeah.
But not
300.
Not 300, but every single life matters. I am looking out to a time where we would have an election and we will not even hear a gunshot. I am looking out to a time when we would have an election and we would go to the polling stations to cast our vote, and we need not see uniformed men, guiding the place.
Okay.
I think that the framework is what is important. We need a consistent review of our processes, and as we come together as a people collectively, have dialogues each and every time. It's an event, and for that matter, it's not an event, but it's a process, and so we should be able to depend on it. Now, the appointments, I said it on another network that if you are a leader and you would be seen as a good leader, as a student of management, I think that one of the key characteristics of a good leader or a good manager is the ability to identify and to put together a team that would help you to achieve your vision. And I think that so far so good. The first three sector ministers that were appointed, Finance, Attorney General, Minister for Justice, and then that of Energy. Looking at their resumes, looking at what I read and what I witnessed, I think that it is a very good blend. There are personalities that have a good blend of the academic, the practical knowledge and experience. And they have a responsibility to deliver, and they do not have an excuse to fail. And when I saw
they don't have an excuse to fail, eh?
No, they do not have an excuse to fail. And when I saw the appointments of the security couples, I was like, this is also an excellent one, because all of these appointees are individuals who have been there before.
Right.
I mean, either they've been top police couples or they have been ministers of interior before and all that. So, per their experience and per the time they have been able to put themselves together to acquire knowledge, I do not see why they should fail.
Okay.
If they fail, then they have done Ghana a disservice. One thing I would want to urge them is to have a mindset change to achieve greater things for Ghana, the sense of patriotism.
Thank you, Nana Yawache. What Brown?
Yes, I think that...
And please, let's make the statements, let's make the commentary straight to the point. We have a lot more to do, so let's go straight
Sure.
to it.
So Mozambique, 300 people being killed or losing their lives is a disaster. For me, it's a national disaster. But I must say that Ghana, we're doing well. Some will say that we're 32 years old, we're still young. Young as we are, I must say that young people also do exploits. And it depends on the leadership you have in place. If Ghana had leaders who took over after 92. If everybody had followed the trend, we would have done better than we are into. But I hope...
What's the trend? In terms of
the trend of
development agenda?
Yeah, development agenda.
Do you have a plan, a national development?
Do we follow that? We do not. We do not. Look at the plunder of state resources and all that. I do not want to go into that now because that's not the issue for discussion. I can give you a plethora for issues. And so I must say that we depending on the leaders, the leadership, the previous administration didn't help us the way we expected. And you can see that from the overwhelming defeat they had. I must say that with the security corps appointments, let me put on record that this government is just barely 9 days old in office, if I'm not wrong. But people measure the government and see if the government is in office for 6 months and all that.
Mr. Worry Brown, a quick reminder though, I'll allow you to flow, but you know, over the last few days I've heard, oh, we're only 3 days old, we're only 6 days old, we're only 9 days old. Ghanaians know that, they are fully aware, but mind you, 9 days will still soon turn into 3 months.
No, I know.
Would you don't fall into the trap
no,
of
I'm not falling into no.
Before you realize it, you are only getting booted
Ghanaians,
out.
No, Ghanaians might be. I'm not saying that to justify. We are doing well. The point I want to make is that even 9 days old, we have done better than people who have been in office for over 6 months. And that should tell you that this government is poised for action. Sometimes, maybe allow me to flow and make my point. And you see, the appointments that have been made so far, very excellent appointments. And people are complaining. You would see from newspapers or comment by Oseche Mensambosu that we should have waited for 2 weeks for people should bring their views about those to be appointed before vetting takes place. So if I'm talking about 9 days and we have kickstarted this and we're making sure that things are done, putting in the right people, the point I'm making is that we are not wasting time. Right. This government is doing well. And the people who have been nominated to be security corps, Bani, advisor, security advisor, solid man. He's been chief of staff, interior minister. He knows his work. COP Kofi Boachi as a director for operations at the presidency, a very solid, another solid person who could have been at IGPM, maybe one of the best we would have had. And you have a Kipo and Co. doing their work. So for me, this government is poised for action, even though we are just 9 days old. We are doing so well as if we're... That's the point I want to make.
All right. Daniel, Ben, before you come in. Daniel, let's take your quick thoughts on this as well. Daniel, unmute, please. Okay, Ben, I don't think we have Daniel yet, so...
Well, very quickly, there's a message here, though. Selecting ministers from Parliament, I just had to acknowledge, reduces the cost of government as well. The minister takes the same salary. They only have some allowances and certain benefits. And that is Ajura Najo sending in that. Have you taken stock, though, of the allowances and the benefits, the perks you speak of? If you put all of that together, do you know what that means? You know, sometimes when it's good that you mention, it's not necessarily that they are taking 2 salaries. I understand. But have you taken stock of the benefits and the other perks of the job? All I'm saying is, if you want them to do work to a certain extent, the quality of work is what I'm looking at. Once you have this dual role, and how much of a drain it is to be a member of parliament, and how much of a drain it is to be a minister, you fuse the two together, something has got to give, and some part will lose. You remember Osafo Mafu and the infamous bit about, oh, we didn't read the entire thing. There was something they were processing in German. Do you remember?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
The loan that went
do you think from the hair salon, loan were contracting from a hair salon. Do you think if legislators had all the time to look at that, would probably have made such mistakes or gaps? No. And there's even the free SHS bill. We are here without that free SHS bill, having gone through the... I feel that anyway, but that's another matter altogether.
Let's get into your paper.
Daniel, I hear is
right.
back. Daniel, you were about to make a point, then we'll come into the studio again.
Thank you very much, my brother. I think it is bad that Africa still is having such challenges where we go to an election and at the end of the election, many people will die. 300 people died just because of the election. This is just unthinkable. It doesn't make sense.
300.
I think we have to learn as Africans We shouldn't finish an election for us to even lose a single soul. It is not the best. So we advise all political parties across the continent that elections is about showing ideas. Election is about selecting people that will lead. There's no need for us to fight for people to die before someone is elected. Mozambique has inaugurated without the opposition or opposition party. I think that is not the best because looking at what is happening in Ghana, the NPP could have done the same. But because we want our democracy to move forward, that is why we joined the inauguration. You have the opposition leader, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, going to greet the president. And look at the pictures out there. It is just so nice. So I think Ghana, we've done our best, and other Africans should also learn from what we are doing in Ghana. It is so awful that we will finish election and people will die.
Right.
I want to thank the president for him making the proposal that investigation should be done from 2000 or so. People that have died in elections.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased that it should be everybody. We shouldn't look at it politically. Right. And I know those that have been selected to do that will do the right thing to ensure that people will know that election is not about killing. Okay. So, and then about president appointments to the security bosses. I was expecting that Kofi Boachi, COP Kofi Boachi, will be considered for national security. I was shocked when I heard that he is being sent to the president. But then the power belongs to the president. Because director of operations is only a security boss for the president. His work doesn't go beyond the Jubilee House. So for me, I feel he could have played a more bigger role than where he has been placed. The advisor, Professor Bani also, we know him and then we know his performance. He has been doing well. So for me, I think his appointment is not bad. We are still waiting for the appointment of the Interior Minister and the Defense Minister. I think so far, those that have been appointed, people that are capable, people that will see their work, people that we can attest that they didn't fail when they hold certain position. Okay. We are looking forward that they will do more.
Thank you, Daniel. Let's get into other papers now. Nana Awache, we have Nana Elsapon. We have.
So I have
the
Daybreak.
Yeah.
And the Daybreak, I take two. Mahama pledges to finish uncompleted health projects. And the other one has to do...
How about we do the stories on the front page and then you pick one that piques your interest? And then
that is because all of them have been done already. But the one that has not been done on the front page is Gideon Boako clears air on e-levy and betting task. And I would want to touch on these two because the rest have already been done. With respect to the taxes, and this has to do with whether or not the government should scrap the e-levy and betting tax, and the argument is that it is going to affect our conditionalities with the IMF. And when I heard it was Gideon Boako that was making the statement, I was a bit surprised at him because he was the spokesperson.
I thought his argument was rather that they may repackage these taxes for us and surprise us with, well,
so that is where I'm coming to. So when he was in government, he felt that the e-levy was a way to go, and that if we had taken the e-levy away, it means that we were going to scrub free SHS, and that if we had taken e-levy away, that IMF was not going to be possible. And today he is in opposition, and he's singing a different tune. I have stated from the beginning that the finance minister should advise the president well. The nuisance taxes must go. But if they think otherwise, and they are able to present to Ghanaians the need, all right, they should do it properly.
Okay.
These are too many, there are so many taxes, compounded taxes that we pay that are unnecessary. I mean, I was happy when the finance minister said, and I've been a part of it, that there is the need for us to reintroduce the road tolls. And somebody should be held responsible for all the monies we have lost as a state all these months when we had collapsed all these road tolls. Now, the other one has to do with Mahama pledging to finish uncompleted health projects. That is the way to go.
All right.
He need not to pledge. The point is that it is his responsibility to continue every single project that has been left. They are for Ghana. It's Ghana's project. If we want this country to develop properly, there is a need for us to be consistent and not to waste money. The cocoa routes that were abandoned so many years ago is going to take us so much of money to bring them back. So if he leaves these ones and do not complete them, that is a waste.
Well, he's saying that he's going to, so...
He shouldn't.
Mr. Owi Brown, let's get into your paper then.
Yeah, I have one paper here. I was viewing one.
And gentlemen, a quick reminder, I'm sorry I have to do this. We have about 7 minutes to wrap this segment, so let's go straight to the major stories. This is what? Which paper is this? The Searchlight,
Searchlight.
Right?
I saw something here, say Mahama kills anti-gay bill. I mean, yes. I must say that we should, when we are putting out these reports, we should be very candid with the issues. Mahama never said that the anti-gay bill is not good or it's not right. I think he's trying to say, from what I heard, that if we had taught proper values, or we teach proper values in our institutions, inculcate that into the fabric of society, there wouldn't have been a need for this. That was my understanding. It's like, yes.
I thought he said it died with the 8th Parliament.
No,
it shouldn't be a private member's bill.
And yesterday we delved into that issue.
Please,
what has been misconstrued as
kill? You delve into it. You see, people say kill. He
David,
didn't say so.
David,
the bill
relax.
is not.
It's a conversation.
But
it's not a.
No. So anyway, maybe I saw in another newspaper. No, maybe another one is oral. I saw the oral where the backbenchers, Parliament, are saying that the oral, nobody should, when they are called upon to appear before them, the oral is not calling people to appear before it. Oral is saying that if you have information which will lead to unravel some malfeasance in state capture, in looting, in corruption, bring it to us. And that's what people are doing. Why are they jittery? Why would it take the backbenchers to what? Come out with a press conference? I thought that loud Appenyo-Mackins, Honorable Appenyo-Mackins, would have led that protest. If Oral was doing something wrong, I believe Appenyo-Mackins would have been the first to rush to court. But you see, I suspect that there are some key figures in the SWAL government who might have done things which would be exposed. So they are finding ways and means to what? Curtail the work of Oral. But I can assure them that the Oral will do its work and make sure that those who have looted state lands, those who have made certain benefits which they shouldn't have, would be exposed and they should be brought to book. Okay. So they should allow Oral to do its work. If we are all saying that there's corruption in the country, they had articulated the point that Mahama was corrupted and so. Now the corrupt man has come to say that let's keep corruption, let's put in processes to make sure that we expose corruption, and they are crying foul.
Okay. Thank you. Point
let me bring in Daniel, because I was going to pose a question to him on Oral. And like I espoused earlier today, before our guests joined us, if you have nothing, if you've done no wrong, what do you have to fear? And legality is important, yes, but Oral doesn't have prosecutorial powers. They are not investigating anything. All they're doing is collecting information. Some people have said that the life of Oral ends when the AG is appointed, and whether it's going to be Shraj, the OSP, or the AG, whichever thing must be taken up by them will be taken up. My question to you, Daniel, your party people in Parliament have said that they are boycotting the process. If there's nothing to fear, why are they not opening themselves up to accountability, so to speak? Daniel.
Thank you very much, my brother. Yes, I support my minority with that action they're taking. Number one, we have so many institutions that can do this work. We have the Ghana Police, we have the CHRAG, we have so many other organizations. If anyone thinks that somebody might have acquired a property illegally, the person can be invited to the police, the person can be invited to the NIB, etc. Why should we have a committee set up, a committee that is unconstitutional, a committee that is...
Daniel, how does the committee, how does it interfere with anything you've said so far?
Yes, the committee work is to unravel corrupt issues. The committee is to unravel people who have acquired state land, state properties illegal. The question is it constitutional when the president was inaugurating this committee?
Daniel, I'm sorry I have to do this, but we don't have that much time, so let me do it. Let me come back to you. Give me a straightforward. You say it is unconstitutional.
He has been elected.
Daniel, relax.
Was not in when the committee was set up.
Okay.
Am I correct?
I'm not even hearing all of what you're saying. My question to you is the committee unconstitutional? What makes it illegal? What part of our law books state that setting up a committee like that is illegal? Can you pinpoint to me?
I am not a lawyer by profession, but all I'm saying is that before the president will commission the committee, was he then the president to have the powers? He has been elected, but he wasn't then inaugurated. So it doesn't give him the powers to even inaugurate such a thing for them to go around. In fact,
Daniel,
they are doing now.
Quick correction. It was not. No, I will not allow you because what you said was wrong. It was not set up with any governmental portfolio. It didn't have any mechanisms for salaries to be paid or anything of the sort. It wasn't legal from that standpoint of the state funding it. It was a committee set up by someone who was coming into office. So don't make that mistake of saying that, oh, maybe it was illegal. Hold for me. A lot of miseducation has been put out there. There was no such thing. It was not by the state. But as a president-elect, he put in place a certain mechanism from their end to deal with corruption. Has nothing to do with the state apparatus. Go ahead.
In your submission, you did mention that it is a committee that is to unravel or report issues such as people looting state properties, people looting state money. If that is the case, what's their beef? Going into places, chasing up people, seizing cars, etc. Then clearly they are doing what they have not been tasked to do, and that is where the minorities have a problem. If you feel somebody has stolen a state car, all you do is to invite the person, and if they are able to unravel or find out or get an information that said, for example, Parker have stolen a land. What they have to do is to report the police so that the police invite me. What they have to do is to invite the NIB for them to invite me.
All right.
I am using, for example, myself. I acquired a land from Ghana East Assembly. They gave me a land for a business, and I did an agreement with them. Then I went to the Lands Commission. They rented the land for me 50 years. They kept beating up my workers on the site. They beat my workers on the site.
Though, if any such things happen, they are illegal and you know where to seek redress. But Daniel, thank you very much. I'll just do the headlines from my papers and then we shall call it a review. The Ghanaian Times, President named security, capos, and that has been delved into. NGO launches initiative to promote access to safe drinking water. This is crucial. And of course, even this morning, sweetie, in that story where fishermen in some areas are now catching fish that are deformed, that have injuries, and so you can't consume them. Yeah. And partly on the back of Galamsey and the menace that we've known. Exercise restraint, President appeals to travel spots. And of course, he was in Boku recently. Court restrains woman from traveling out with daughter out of country. And Mason in trouble for biting ex-girlfriend's upper lip. Some of these issues, they make for... Then the new finder, have basic knowledge of your side hustle business. That's according to Dr. Yamson. Revoke licenses for mining in forest reserves. Ken Ashigbe says so. LI 2462 is still active and it must be dealt with. The erstwhile administration said it would knock it off, but that didn't happen. Staple food items, others driving inflation. The Ghana Statistical Service calls for multi-sectoral solutions to tackle the crisis. And unfortunately, that's all time will allow us. We'll not be able to. Our time has been, we've added time and spent the time, and so there's nothing else. But let's do 10 seconds. 10 seconds, let's go.
Information. You see, as Ghanaians, per our constitution, we have some duties.
4 seconds, go.
All right, Article 41. And you see, oral, they have, if you've seen people come to you to attack your workers, that is not oral. Their mandate was clear. To gather
we can't even guarantee that these people were tied to
that's
oral.
What I mean.
And that's why I was saying, if that has happened, go to court. You know where to go.
Information
seek redress.
To aid the prosecution.
So your point is?
I mean, it is constitutional.
Okay.
Because they are just going about their duties.
Right.
I mean,
quick points.
Do anything.
One, I think you mentioned the Boku stuff. Muhammad did well going there. For oral, if the people who have been approached one way or the other, if they are complaining, they think that what the oral is doing is unconstitutional, they should go to court.
All right. Daniel, 10 seconds. Let's go. Do we have Daniel?
Thank you once again. Thank you once again. I have given you a practical example of what the oral is doing. I'm supporting the minority with a decision. Let us reshape their way of doing things. I think Honorable Kujato is a gentleman that we all know. When the oral is not doing what is expected, we should call them to order.
All right,
and
thank
I'm
you.
saying the point.
Thank you, Daniel. We've come to the end of the news review. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. And I have to thank my in-house guest, Sweetie Abochi, as well. Those who joined us, Nanaya Sapong, he's with the Movement for Change. We also had David Kweku Warwi Brown. He's a lawyer and member of the NDC's communications team. And via Zoom, Daniel Parker, the MPP Greater Accra Regional Secretary. Well, that's how we're capping it off. Stay for sports. Up next. We'll be right back.